I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with the feeder flash for Tuesday, September the 24th, brought to you in part by Fairpiece, that revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. Fairpiece should be used every time cattle are exposed to management stressors, including weaning, dehorning, castrating, branding, vaccination, commingling, new arrivals, re-implanting, re-vacking, or even terminal sorting. For more information, go to fairpiece.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, another big sale for them, looking at 3,500 head this week. On Tuesday at the feeder cattle sale, they're going to have over 3,000. Have 12 to 1,400 calves. Most of them be 4 to 6 weight calves. Very few of them will be weaned, but about 3/4 of them will at least have one round of vaccinations there, and quality will be outstanding there. How about 1,600 yearling cattle there? About 600 of them will be heifers. They will be mostly 7 and 8 weight heifers there. There's going to be at least 5 loads of heifers weighing in the deep 7s and the light 8s there. If somebody's interested in buying some load lots of them, be 1,000 head of yearling steers there. Outstanding quality, just like usual there. And most of them be weighing 700 to 900 pounds or a little heavier than that. Be sure 11 or 12 straight loads of 8 and 9 weight yearling steers right off the grass. Most of them will be all black and good enough to go absolutely anywhere. On Wednesday at the cow sale, they're expecting 300 to 500 cows. Not many stickouts, mostly just be way up cows and bulls, but they are going to have one consignment of miniature Herefords. Some of them will be registered, guys. About 14 pairs and 10 bred cows, and then about a dozen breeding bulls, and they'll be miniature Herefords. If you guys are interested in those, get into Beaver County Stockyards. If you can't get there yourself, give them a call early and get approved there, and you can bid on DVAuction.com. A bumper crop. This corn is just out of sight this year, guys. Just about 92% of last year's acreage was planted this year, but I mean the yields are going to be out of this world. We're just now starting to get into the corn belt, and just the reports we're getting back, more so than from the crop tours, just talking to people that grow a lot of it themselves that I'm hearing about. That's the testimonials that I like to take the most stock in. But you can see why these big yearling feeders are getting higher on a market that's just kind of planing out from being on a down market here. But tell you what, this corn is going to be cheap, make cheap feed. But harvest as of Monday was only 14% complete in your major corn growing states there, and that was 1% higher than a year ago. And the condition of it is really good. The good to excellent rating on it was 65%. That is 12 percentage points higher than last year. Just a really good crop out there. And talking to some producers there in southern Iowa and extreme northern Missouri, north of the river, they do a lot of crop ground there. Even though Missouri is a big cattle state, the bulk of the cattle are south of the river, where you can't grow as much crops there. But in that part of the country, Iowa, as a state, is only 5% complete on harvest, and already we're hearing a lot of southern Iowa and northern Missouri elevators are full. They had a lot of carryover from last year still stored in there. Not sure what they're going to do with it. There'll be a lot of it piled on the ground, guys, and they got to find a place for that. Be a lot of on the farm storage, and a lot of that is already full too. And so you're seeing those farmer feeders come into the cattle market to walk some of that to town, or maybe a lot of it this year. But also it's just excellent conditions here for harvesting. The grain is really dry, 16 to 19% moisture on that corn is what we're hearing, with test weights from 59 to 61. So you can see why people are really excited about the corn crop. Not too excited about the price, of course, but that just goes hand in hand. But we're seeing, we've been kind of short on market-ready fat cattle here all this year, and that's been on the up market, and we feel like we're in a down market, even though the last 10 days or so the board has responded well. Fat cattle market has responded well, and we're coming up. Our box beef cutout values tailed off hard and now are starting to find some support, although they're in the seasonal lull for them also. But we've got about the same number of fed cattle as we did for the fourth quarter last year. But going into the fourth quarter this year, about the same number of fed cattle. Hell of it is, the carcass weights are about 30 pounds bigger. So these cattle sellers are going to continue to have to dig and dig and dig and hold that market as much as they can, because if they ease up just a little bit, these packers will try to take all this market position away from them, guys. We're seeing a big temperature change. We went from extremely hot to 50-degree nights in the 50-degree range there, from having highs, in the triple digits there just a couple of years ago. Had some moisture in the southern plains, central part of the U.S. there, which we're glad to see a little bit of moisture, but it makes it hard on new arrivals of these unweaned calves for the guys that are trying to get them started. Let's talk about your board. To start the week out on Monday, October live cattle futures were up 77 cents at 183 1/4, just continuing to see support on your CME futures. And at 183 1/4, that's not the normal basis that we've been working with here for the last many months. That's pretty tight up to what cattle are actually bringing, and we're not even in October yet. December live cattle up 62 cents at 183.82, and your back months on live cattle all up good from 50 cents to $1.07 higher. September feeder cattle up 27 cents on Monday at 245.10. October was up 57 cents at 244.47, and your back months all up good from 55 cents higher to $1.17 higher. Now your grains, of course, we talked about how good the corn crop is, and December corn on Monday to start the week was down 4 cents a bushel at 401 3/4. November beans down 1.5 cents at 10.12, and your Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December was down 1/2 cent a bushel at 5.64. Talk about your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region, brought to you by Legacy Beef Cooperative. They just unveiled another section of shares there. They are going to be $25 a head, or $25 a share higher than the last group, but that's kind of the way they planned it out there. But they are selling those right along, guys. If you want to get in on that, you better go ahead and do that. But you talk about your price range on fat steers and heifers last week, negotiated out of the 5-area feeding region, ranged from 177 to 185.5. Now that was steady to $1 higher, but that's that 177. There was only 42 cattle that sold that way, and just a few at 180 and a few at 181. All less than 100 head at any of those spots. Your market was mostly 182 to 185.5, and your weighted average on live steers in the 5-area last week was 184.01. That was up $1.90, almost $2 higher on your weighted average. That's a significant gain, mostly from your northern plains fat cattle sellers and your Midwestern guys digging their heels in and demanding more for their high quality stock. Your dress sales range from 288 to 290, 250, pretty narrow range for a dress market there. That was $1 higher on the bottom side, $1.50 lower on the top side, and your weighted average was actually a little bit cheaper than last week. Weighted average on dress steers, 290.41. That was down 20 cents. So as a whole, the Northern Plains sold their cattle from 184 to 185 for the most part. That was $2 to $4 higher. Their dress sales ranged mostly from 290 to 292, which was unevenly steady. Southern Plains sold most all their cattle at 183, which was $2 higher, and did hear some guys frustrated because they'd heard a lot of those cattle, especially in Kansas, sold negotiated at 183 plus $1, but they all got reported as 183. I'm not sure if those auditors from mandatory price reporting, especially the ones I know of, are smart enough to figure that out. But we wish when they go in and do those audits at the plant to make sure all those cattle are getting reported correctly. They ought to be able to find that in there somewhere, and we get some more truthful reporting here because it's lagging on our negotiated cash market. Nationwide, we sold 87,000 head negotiated, which is a pretty good clip for the way things are these days. That compares with 63,800 the previous week and 87,200 the same week a year ago, really close to what we had this last week. Of the 87,000 head negotiated nationwide, only 11% of those were for the 2 to 4 week delivery, less than 10,000 of those. So they're getting pretty short here, kind of hand to mouth and getting short bought. So even though they're not bragging about a big wholesale beef price, they may have to continue to give at least steady or higher money for the fat cattle that they're needing. Negotiated grid sales last week totaled up 38,800 head. Forward contracting was a little bit bigger than what it's been here for the last several weeks at 16,900 head. And of course, formula sales make up the bulk of the trade at 276,000 head last week. Of the 4 out of 5 feeding areas that we get information from, negotiated last week, Iowa sold 28,300. That's not far off normal for them. Nebraska, 23,600. That's a little bit light. Kansas, 12,100, which is pretty typical. And Texas, only 4,900, which they don't sell very many cattle negotiated cash anymore in Texas. But I did hear of a fat cattle auction on Monday. New Holland sales stables up in New Holland, Pennsylvania. That's Lancaster County, Pennsylvania Dutch country there. They were selling their best steers, average dress there, then the higher quality choice and prime steers through the sale barn there on Monday at 194.92 on the average, and had a few high dressing fat cattle there on the steers sell with an average weighted average price of $212.69. They get some stick out deals. They've got small butchers in that country. They want what they want. They want the really high dressing cattle that also have some quality to them. I did talk to a man that bought Piedmontese slaughter bull there on Monday, weighed 1775 and bring 261. He said not to worry. He said the boning yield on that bull will be outstanding, and he thinks it will dress about 71%. That's really impressive. But you look at the cows were not all that impressive compared to everywhere else. About the same. Best cows in New Holland, Pennsylvania bring 145. Hasn't been that long ago we'd see slaughter cows bringing well over 150 and higher there. But slaughter cows back in the mid part of the country on Monday were sharply lower. Springfield had just a way up sale there on Monday like they always do. Springfield, Missouri, they sold $3 to $7 lower, with most cows bringing 110 to 125. And OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma, also sharply lower, $6 to $8 lower, and a similar price there. It takes one hell of a cow to bring 130 anymore, guys. And we're just seeing more cows coming to town, even though we're really tight on slaughter cows, and our slaughter cow packers are really scrambling for cows. We are getting to that time of the year where people are bringing their herds in. They're weaning their calves, they're preg checking their cows, and they're bringing them to town. And we do see that in your sales also, but a lot of the bigger outfits just bring truckloads of cows into those packing plants, those cow packers there. So that's part of the reason, which is fundamental, on why our cow market's going down a little bit. and our fresh 50s are grinding meat for a lot of them from cows there. It's fallen off as part of the carcass, part of your box beef cutout values. It's fallen off. Cow meat's fallen off. And that's one reason your box beef cutout values have been struggling, because those trimmings haven't been as high as what they've been most of the summer, guys. But choice cuts on Monday afternoon were up 162 at 301.81. Selects were down 80 cents at 287.79. Your slaughter is really light to start the week out, just 107,000 estimated cattle slaughter on Monday. That was 14,000 less than just last Monday and 19,000 less than the same Monday a year ago. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Monday sitting at 244.74, up another $1.40 there, and the buyers were going after those big yearlings, and especially the few grass yearlings that we have left here to buy. Farmer feeder demand is outstanding, like we talked about that earlier when we was talking about the corn. But your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 243.50. I'm going to be headed to Beaumont, Texas, or halfway between Beaumont and Winnie, Texas, on Tuesday evening, speaking to a group from the independent cattle producers of Southeast Texas there. Looking forward to visiting with them at one of their meetings, guys. Talk about your big sales on Monday. The city, Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, sold 6,300 head. Your steers were unevenly steady, all weights, even the calves, except for 4-weight steer calves. Market reporting is very good in Oklahoma City, and they called the 4-weight steer calves $20 higher, with increased demand just for that particular class and kind right there. Heifers, all weights, were steady to $5 lower, except for your 4-weight heifer calves, and they were $6 higher. Must be wheat demand to get those cattle in there and get them started, get them preconditioned and ready to turn out on the wheat. They said the quality was pretty plain in Oklahoma City on Monday, and did note there also that the nights have turned cool after the extremely hot days that they had just a few days ago. Another big sale on Monday, Joplin Regional Stockyards, just 5,000 head. They overestimated for one of the first times I remember in Joplin. They were thinking they'd have about 1,000 more than that, but it rained around the area there in southwest Missouri, so some of those producers didn't get their cattle in. Feeder steers, they call those $2 to $8 higher. Feeder heifers sold uneven. Your unweaned calves, listening to Jackie Moore's video on YouTube there, he said the unweaned calves still under a lot of pressure, but selling mostly steady with last week. Stick out sale at Joplin Regional Stockyards was 60 steers weighed 815 pounds, bring $255.75. That would be dollars and dollars higher than last week. Your National BeefWire stick out sale of the day was from Russell Livestock Market in Russell, Iowa. Another DVAuction broadcaster there. They had about 3,000 head there, and a lot of farmer feeder interest up there in Russell, Iowa. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central. Look at your best tested weights. I thought they were all pretty impressive. 260 head of 5-weight steers in Russell, Iowa, average 552 at 284.01. That includes a lot of unweaned calves there, guys. 445 head of 7-weight steers, average 768 at 255.35. There were 385 head of 8-weight steers in Russell, Iowa. They averaged 857 pounds with a weighted average price of 245.03. Look at some heifers, and they had a few more heifers than they did steers. 240 head of 4-weight heifer calves averaged 471 at 285.19. 249 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 654 at 251.90. There were 493 head of the 7-weight heifers in Russell, Iowa. They averaged 750 pounds right on the button with a weighted average price of 240.28. And 243 head of 8-weight feeder heifers averaged 847 at 224.04. Talk about some individual quotes there. and the most impressive that I saw anywhere. And your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day. There's actually two quotes, same consigner. I couldn't tell which was the highest one. I'll let you guys figure it out. It was Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri. Jack Harrison's sale there. He does a great job there every week for his consigners. He had the Sprouse steers on there. These were thin-fleshed, calf-weight yearlings, excellent quality. There were 90 head of the steers, weighed 575, bring 313.60, and then the bigger brothers off of them, 80 head of them, weighed 640 at 294.50. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.